Hello, everyone. Hello, hello, hello. Let me know you're out there. I see some people are joining, and I certainly cannot wait for you all to get into this topic. Again, we are here. Our topic tonight is respect versus love. Do men and women view it differently? Yes. Thank you all for joining. Again, let me know who's out here. You said no sound. I see that. Thank you, Jaylon. Let me figure out what's happening here. Can you hear me now? Please let me know. Jaylon told me that there was no sound. See if you can hear me now. Good evening, Jaylon. Hey, hon. Remember these Wednesdays? I'm back. Yes, I'm back. Oh, you can hear me now. Yay. Thank you so much. Hey, Bridget, how are you? Thank you for joining. Also, did y'all hear the music? Like, I was jamming. Did we hear the music and everything? Which I think I'm supposed to say I didn't have the rights to the music or however that thing goes. But hey, you guys, how you doing? Welcome to the Mental Spot. I cannot tell you how excited I am about this. And as I'm preparing to introduce you to my first guest on the first episode, I want to give you a little history about the Mental Spot. And for those who don't know me, we're on my personal page. Birth name is Shaquan. Business name and name who I've evolved into is Coach Shaquan. And again, for those who aren't familiar with me, I am a certified relationship coach, a energy leadership expert, and a transformational speaker. Yes, all of those big words. My company, PRT Coaching Services, we are a life and relationship expert firm. We focus on teaching self-awareness strategy and mindset tools to men and women to help them be the leaders in the life that they choose to live. And because life is all about relationships, it is very important to know how you show up or how other people view you. And, relationships really give you the opportunity, right? A mirror to see yourself. And so I'm very passionate about relationships. I've done a lot of work with men and women individually and as couples within my coaching practice. And I do a lot of leadership training with organizations who want to invest in their leaders, again, through understanding what leadership means and how it's related to your personal and professional relationships. So been very successful in that space, and I am excited to be here. So I have my fancy microphone here, and turned it down too low. So I had a good little song going and everything, and y'all didn't hear it, but that's okay. That's okay. We're here inside the Mental Spot. So let me just tell you a little bit about our guest this evening. And Before I do that, let me explain to you about the Mental Spot and how it came to fruition. So today, depending on when you're watching this broadcast, today is April 4th. And today I'm actually in awe of how God has positioned me. I am celebrating. I am just really a really good place. 5 years. I walked out the doors of my corporate job that I've been at for 13 years. Today I'm celebrating 5 years since that happened. And after working in corporate America for 13 years, I really got to that point of feeling like I didn't know who I was. I didn't really understand a lot about who I was as a wife, and was having some challenges in my marriage and struggling being a good mom. I had 2 small children at the time, and I was having a challenge in the workplace. And so I really had to break down one day and look myself in the mirror and say, how did I get here? How did I get to be his wife and, the mom to these 2 boys and, having to keep it together in the workplace, not being stereotyped as the angry Black woman, and not really losing myself, being so bitter and so resentful and so angry because I wasn't being promoted. I wasn't being recognized. I didn't feel like I was being paid what I should be paid. And so it was a big struggle. And all the while really having to keep it together, right? Keeping up the perception that everything was okay. And so the breakdown came one day, and I just something had to happen. My performance started failing at work, and I was on the verge of being fired. So I don't have one of those stories. So let's be clear. And I'll tell the full story in another stream, in another episode we're going to talk about later down the line. Just really quickly though, my story is not like I just woke up one day and it's like, okay, I'm empowered and I'm leaving this job and I've got this dream. No, I was about to be fired. Okay, let's tell that truth. And so I found myself in a position of being blessed and the favor of God, and really submitting to his will for me. And I was able to get out of that situation and begin building my business. And so here I am 5 years later. I'm very clear on who I am, what I do, who I serve, and why. And the mental spot was something that came up back in 2015. I should have brought my board up here because I have a lot of poster boards that I write on. And so I came up with this idea about the mental spot. Like, I really want to talk to men. I really want to coach men. And so initially, I started with reaching out to some men that I knew that I had worked with in the past and asking if they would be open to being coached online and live. And they're like, no, not that. And I'm like, okay, dang, I got to try something else. And so I started a Facebook group. I reached out to 30 men that I knew and told them that I had this idea called the Mental Spot. And it was the tagline was stimulating the minds of men to talk about life, love, and leaving the toilet seat up. And they bought in, and they jumped right in. And I really thought it was going to work out. Had some good discussion early on, and I couldn't maintain it. And so I put it on the shelf. Did some other projects. Tribe Called Best, which is a learning community for wives that I did for about 2 years, and kept getting pulled from there, and figured out that I really had to do what God called me to do, which was step into the corporate space and really start doing the teaching there, because that's where the heart of, I figured, my struggles and my challenges were coming from, were trickling down from the workplace. And so now as tables turn, right, revisiting this idea, and again started having some conversation with some guys I knew, and I'm like, hey, would you be interested in I really want to do a live show, and would you be interested in being my guest? And so I reached out to another handful of guys and told them what the idea was, what the concept was. Again, life, love, and leaving the toilet seat up. Life, again, we're going to I'll be talking with my guests and asking them questions just about life. How did they get here? We're going to talk about love and relationships and marriage. Some of the guys are married, some are not. And leaving the toilet seat up, it's really a metaphor, if you will, of the freedom to do or what your belief system taught you, and just a plethora of just feelings that a man has that he should be free to have. It's something that we as women may not understand. However, we have to find a way to respect their thought pattern and their mindset, as long as it's healthy, of course. So again, my guest tonight is Pastor Dre from the Tabernacle. It's a church here in St. Louis, Missouri. And I am going to just let you know that I have known Dre before he was pastor. And before I was coach. Dre was, we were friends in college. We actually attended Mizzou together, University of Missouri, Columbia. We started off in a summer program right after high school, and connected and really became good friends and great confidants. And he's always supported me back then and now. And moving forward, once God called him into the ministry, and he and his wife, another good friend of mine, Lady Tiffany, made that choice to start their own congregation, start their own church. Once they got up and building and started their marriage program called Marriage Matters, they invited me in. So we were can I say a threesome? I don't know. Can I say that? Of course I can. We were, the three of us got together, and we started hosting these quarterly Marriage Matters workshops, and they were phenomenal. There were small groups, very intimate, of married couples that came, and I really started finding my way. So early on, Dre and Tiff, because I can call them like that because we're cool like that, right? They really saw the vision, and they really believed in me and supported me in understanding that my style of teaching was different. So there is scripture that goes along with most everything, everything. I can back it up to the word. However, that's not my full style I'm not a Christian coach. I'm not a Christian teacher. I am a Christian, right? And I'm serving in a way of teaching that God has purposed me to do. And so it's worked out very well for us. And we are moving to the next stage of what we're doing here. And so I want to bring on Dre. And let's get him on here. Let's see, he's not ready just yet. Okay, so I will bring him on here shortly. We're going to talk about, again, the topic of respect versus love. Respect versus love. So in the comments, while we're all here, please tell me, which do you feel is most important in a relationship? In the comments below, let me know. Do you feel like the respect is more important or the love is more important? Let's get some interaction going here while we are preparing to bring Pastor Dre on the screen with us. Let me know. What do you think? Is it the respect or is it the love? And I'm going back looking at comments, please. I'm multitasking here, so give me grace. I see Jaylon is here. I see Bridget is here. Hey, y'all. Quenisha, hello, my love. How are you? Hey, Wanda. Miss Alice, so good to see you yesterday. Can't wait. We're going to do some amazing work together. Jaylon, thank you, hon. She says, I miss your teaching. You always drop some awesome nuggets, keeping it real. Yes, baby. Check your BS. We're going to talk about that, right? Thank you. I met Mika. I just did a workshop the other day, Monday, Tuesday, and we met. So thank you for that. I appreciate that. And let's see, Mika says respect. Yes, they say respect. Okay. And hey, Kim, how are you? That's my middle sister. How are you doing? Respect. I see all of the ladies. Hi, Miss Gunn. Says respect. T. Witt says respect. I see all of these on here. Respect. We're going to talk about this because I'm going to be honest. Okay. Hey, Nyron, how are you? Nyron showing up. Love when the men come and show out. He says respect. I see Miss Anitra. Hello, love. Respect. Bridget says love. Yes. I see Angie. She says respect. So I'm going to tell you that I'm just a little bit shocked because typically men are strictly respect and women say love. So this is going to be interesting. Yes, Tisha says, Aretha said it best. Yes, R-E-S-P-E-C-T. Now, that was my song when I first started and had the little volume down and didn't even know it. That's all right. Hey, Marcus, thanks for checking in. Marcus says respect is equal love. So I'm going to leave that here because that's going to lead us into the conversation that we'll be having tonight. Again, in the difference of how men review respect and love. I'll tell you that Pastor Dre and I had this conversation in one of our marriage mindsets. It was one of the sections that he spoke about, and he was talking on basically understanding how men view respect as love. And he'll explain this a little bit deeper probably than me. He's this is his sweet spot, right? Well, men view respect as love. And so if you don't respect him, then he doesn't feel the love. Now, traditionally, women want the love over the respect, which is why I say I am very, very, I was interesting to see all of the ladies that put respect out there, because the truth is we'll give up the respect for the love, right? And at some point, it may not be now where you are at this stage in life. However, that's my truth, right? I gave up a lot of the respect for the love. When they don't call you back or when they don't show up, they say they're going to be here. Or a guy, says, I'm going to be there at a certain time and he doesn't show up. Or the language that they use is very aggressive. Or if there's any abuse that's going on, just think of women who are unfortunately in abusive relationships, right? They'll stay there and be disrespected because they desire the love. Now, the truth of the matter again is, a man, again, if he does not feel respected, then he doesn't feel love. And so while oftentimes women, we are fighting for that place of position, that place of feeling the love and getting the love from him. Well, he doesn't know how to love you because you don't show him through the respect. So it becomes a very vicious cycle of men demanding that respect and feeling disrespected and then ultimately not feeling the love. So I love this comment here by Jaylon. She says, the Bible tells men to love your wives and wives respect your husband. Yes, it does. Yes, it does. Absolutely. So let's tell the truth, though, because, how often do we go with that? How often do we really sit in that place and say, and get really clear on how am I showing up as a wife or even as a girlfriend, right? We'll even take it down a step. How am I showing up in a way that makes my husband or my spouse or my partner feel disrespected, right? And so it's a very honest question to ask yourself and say, hey, am I saying something or am I doing something that makes you feel disrespected? Because if you find your husband or your partner, your boyfriend or whatever the case may be, and if you ask him, do I disrespect you? And he says yes, then what do you do with that, right? What do you say next? What is your next step? So we must be very careful in making assumptions about how we show up and saying, I just had a conversation with a client, and she's like, my husband knows I respect him. And then she says, except when I go to 10, when I hit 10 and I get to 100, like when I get to 100 and I get to that point, then I pop off. But I know how I feel about the word but, right? Mm-hmm. But he knows that I respect him. And I'm like, I know what I said? You need to check your BS, right? Because I don't think that you can say that respect is situational, right? I respect you until you get to the point of pissing me off. No, it just doesn't really work that way. And so we must be very careful on understanding what it means to be respected. So I have a comment here from Melanie Gunn. She says, I think it's important that we both have a foundation based on respect. Then we can bring in the love. Absolutely. Having that foundation based on respect and having the conversation. What does respect mean, right? I always challenge clients, and when I'm going and speaking in organizations and telling them about energy and how energy is based off of your five senses. And so it's very clear that your perception and your energy and your five senses are all kind of go together. So having the conversation and asking, so what does respect look like? What does it feel like? What does it sound like? What does it smell like? What does it taste like? Like being very clear on that and having that opportunity to get clear, right? Just get clear on what it is. So I am excited because we are ready. And I am going to, see, I'm clicking on stuff. I don't know what I'm doing here, but here we go. Boom, 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 boom. Welcome, hello. Welcome.
Hello.
Hey, hello.
Hello. Can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Awesome. I can hear you and I can see you. I don't know if you can see me.
I can see you. Because they're watching.
Hello, everybody. How are you doing?
Hi. So I was giving them some filler.
Okay.
And a little bit about you and how we met and all of that good stuff. So first of all, I want to welcome you to the Mental Spot and thank you so much for being my very first guest, episode 1, where we're talking about respect versus love and do men and women view it differently. So truth be told, y'all, Pastor Dre and I have been having conversation on the back end, and the conversation got so good. I kept saying, no, we gotta wait, right? We gotta wait and give it to the people. So thank you again, Dre, for joining us. Just give them some background. Tell us a little bit about yourself and how you and how did we meet?
So background, I'll try to we're from St. Louis, so where did you graduate? Berkeley High School, class of 95, coachshaquan in transition.
Yes.
So we weren't technically college students yet, although we were behaving like college students, and that's another session for another day. And through time, just developed a relationship. Thanks to Shaquan, I married my wife. Even though at that time I didn't see her at home, but Shaquan kept pushing the issue. But all seriousness, so through college relationship and, before being a pastor, my former life, electrical engineer, MBA in finance, all of that good stuff, right? And then felt the call to make a switch, to put it nicely. And felt God calling me to do what I do now. And so I love this aspect of it. I heard you touching on the marriage matters and all of that. And this was a very hot topic, especially with the ladies, because come to find out, so I've been reading the comments, and a lot of ladies before we started that session really thought it was respect for them. But when we got into the thick of it, they recognized that, hey, the way I see respect is really not the same way he sees it. And when the truth of the matter, when the rubber meets the road, I'm looking for love. And men, we equate love and respect for the one and the same. So if you don't respect me, you don't love me. So,
yeah. So let's start off. Thank you so much. Let's start off with answering just a simple question. How do you define respect?
That's a good question. It's simple, but yet complex. And here's why. Because every man, just like every woman, is different. So what respect looks like to each man is different. But I'll walk real quick through the synonym that I created when we were teaching the class. So R stood for reverence. How do you show your man honor? And in order to know that, you got to have a conversation. And what I found over time is a lot of times the ladies will want us to listen to them about what it looks like to love them and what they need for intimacy. But when we start talking about honor is like a dirty word. It's the second dirtiest word. The first one is submission. When you start talking submission, you get that eye.
There might be five more.
Well, honor, and you better have your track shoes on and be ready to run, because it's kind of like, what do you mean honor? I love him, don't I? I cook, I this, I that. And that's not what that really means. Honor means, how do you affirm your mate? And for every mate, that's different. So you got to listen to him. So that's as far as reverence. E is encourage. Do your actions and attitudes affirm, or do they agitate, annoy, and afflict him? How do you encourage him? Encouraging him is not encouraging him by saying, "Ooh, sweetie, I know you can do this because this is what I want done." But how do you encourage him in the endeavors of where he is? Yeah. As being served. When he asks you to do something, how do you respond? Do you respond in a loving way, not loving way, depending on what's going on? How do you respond when he asks you to do something? Patience. Do you allow time for task completion, or is everything treated as urgent? Ooh. And why that's a big one for us is because if everything is on fire, men by nature are fixers. So we're trying to put out all this stuff, and it might not be as urgent. If you respect me, you'll be honest enough to say, this is a priority. This is not. This can wait. You'll have some patience with me. Exposure. E. Is discretion utilized when you talk about him, or does everybody in public know what's going on with y'all? Men are big about, we closet people. And if you're going to put us on blast to everybody, because here's what most men have said to me over time, and I'm just going to jump right in, especially when it's been where we've made an error. I don't care what kind of error it is. It can be financial. It can be in a relationship. Men go, when something happened between me and her, I kept it on the hush. I covered her. I did something your mama know, your grandma know, your coworkers know. How is that? You just put me on blast, and now I got to heal publicly with wounds from people who don't even know me. And how do I work through that now? And that we don't see. That's like one of those that really cuts in terms of respect. So exposure. Care. How do you display it? Do you have an interest about what's really going on with me? Or is it just to hear my cares so we can get to yours? So how do you do that? And then last one, trials. During the difficult moments of life, how do you treat him? That T is the foundation, because it's easy. It's easy to say you respect me when life is good, but let's talk about when I've blown it or life is just hard. How do you treat me when the trials come? Do you still honor me? Do you still encourage me? Do you still serve me? Do you still have patience with me? Do you expose me to everybody? Do you still care about me? And so that's the things we went through. And by the time we got the T,
it was over. We didn't have enough time left. So I'm hearing this again, you guys, and let me tell you, it sits again and again, and this isn't the first time that I've heard this, and I just went ahead and put these down because I want to just make sure that we're clear. Again, reverence. So at what point, or how do you learn that? Like where did you learn reverence?
So a little bit about my background. I grew up a lot different than most guys because my mom passed when I was 6 years old.
Mm-hmm.
And so I grew up with just my dad. And my dad was big about respect, not just only from his mates that he dated, because my dad never remarried, but from his coworkers, his friends, his peers. And so, part of the challenge, I think, with this in reverence is that a lot of times we want to say respect is earned. Well, particularly if we're talking about married people, I've earned your respect in a sense because we've gone to the altar. So you have mine and I have yours, supposedly. And I say it that way because the reality of it is sometimes that really ain't there. But if that is there, then it creates the atmosphere for me to ask you the questions. The same way I learn about intimacy from my wife, I have to ask her and I have to be willing to listen to what she has to say, even if it's making me feel some kind of way on the inside.
Yeah.
And so you got to ask that brother. And this is where the guys, we get hung up and we have to push on ourselves. When we get asked, we have to be willing to answer.
Yeah.
It can't be, well, I think maybe. No, put it out there. What makes you feel honored? And for every guy that's different, it could be everything from a certain kind of meal to the words that are used when his name is called and the tones. It could be a variety of things, but it's just that asking.
And asking, I love that. Asking and then being clear that there is an expectation or a level of respect that is owed to give an answer.
Yeah.
Oftentimes when we start talking about the communication piece, right, the shutdown, because I'm uncomfortable. Part of it is because I'm afraid of what recourse may come if I tell you my truth.
Yeah.
Right. And so the shutdown happens. If you ask him a question, first of all, ladies, we sometimes already have an assumption in our mind about what he's going to say. So you've already prepared what your next response is going to be. So if you ask him a question, then give him the respect to tell his truth. Okay? Men, if she asks you a question, stand on the foundation of being a man and being the head of your household, and just in general who you are, and speak your truth. The lies, I think that it gets so much caught up in the lies of it that it gets twisted. And again, we women all the time, I respect him. You think he's a liar. Right? You don't trust him. So is it true or not that you respect him? Because the respect, like you said, comes in a whole big package other than what we typically were taught that it meant. So I love that. Let's look at encourage, right?
Mm-hmm.
Talk about that.
So this one, I think, goes hand in hand typically with the trials. Because if we having trials, then what I think is encouragement, i.e. telling you to get your stuff together, and the words that I use really is not encouragement. You ripping me down. And if you turn me down, it's like a house. I could come to you and say, I'm going to build you a house. We got the blueprint. And I'm building brick by brick. And every brick I put up, you take it back down. Well, what kind of house do we have? Encouragement kind of works the same way, which means even when you're frustrated or upset and it's legitimate, I'll just go there. It's a legitimate reason to be frustrated or upset.
Right.
Encouragement is all about language. And so some people really need to study the dictionary and learn a different kind of language in terms of how you approach it. So you can't go to him and say, what you did just made me mad as hell. Back up. Sweetheart, that really frustrated me because I know we've talked about this and we're trying to get there.
Right.
Now that's a whole different kind of tone.
Right.
Most times we feel like because I'm upset, then it gives me a right to be ugly in tone. It does not. Now let's flip it. On the positive side, when things are going well, your spouse, your mate needs to know you're their biggest cheerleader. Because here's what men will say typically, many of us. Some of us are more low key in terms of that rah, rah, rah. Like me, I don't necessarily like a whole lot of rah, 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 but when I need it, I need it.
Yeah.
So Um, your encouragement, your words, the energy that comes from it. Energy is tied to encouragement because you can be saying to me, "Oh, that's good," and be totally distracted.
Yeah.
And the things like that y'all think we don't pay attention to, we do. I give you a big one, especially to those who have children. You walk in the house, yay, sweetheart, how you doing? Da, 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 da. Good job at school today. All that, right? Get to the spouse, you might ask how they day going. And men, we gonna be good or bad. But if it's one of those days where we begin to talk more and all you do is say, "Oh, that's good, sweetheart," and it's generic, but we just watched you light up like a Christmas tree for the kids, it kills us.
Well,
Because what we do is say, okay, you say I don't talk enough. I needed that encouragement right there, and you gave me a generic response.
right, right. Okay, so now I gotta step in for the ladies, right?
Sure.
So whose responsibility is it then? Are we to assume or to pay attention to your cues if you need it? Am I supposed to pull okay, let me ask this. Are my pom poms supposed to be like on deck, like ready to pick up at any given moment, like you know what I'm saying? Or are you as a man, right, as a husband, do you have the responsibility of telling your truth and saying, babe, I'm in a place where I need to be encouraged?
I think honestly it's both, and here's why I say it's both. One, we have to speak up because nobody's a mind reader. But then also the other part of it, why I say it's both, is because as you're around someone, you learn their pattern.
Mm.
So just like he's learning your patterns about certain things that you like, certain moments where even though he don't want to hear about your full day, how you had to kick the cat, pick up the trash, run and jump over a single leap and bound over a building. Even though you've done all these things and that really ain't our thing, some days we automatically know, okay, this is a day where she really needs she really needs to say it, and I really need to listen.
Yeah.
So it's both. I think where the breakdown happens is that we don't sometimes communicate it. And then the flip side of it is if you're married to someone who feels like you're supposed to learn my patterns, but I ain't supposed to learn yours, and I'm not supposed to be in tune or pay attention,
Yeah.
that's where the disconnect happens. So
Yeah.
it's
Okay.
we have to talk more. We do.
Absolutely, absolutely, absolutely. So, thank you all for those who are just joining. We are inside the mental spot, the place where men talk about life, love, and leaving the toilet seat up. I am Coach Shaquan, certified relationship coach, and I am here with my first guest in episode 1, Pastor Dre from the Tabernacle in St. Louis, Missouri, and we are talking about respect versus love. Do men and women view them differently? So I ask you, if you're on here and you've been listening and you find that this is valuable, please share. Right, there's someone that may need to hear this and could really get some value out of what we're talking here. So far, Pastor Dre has defined what respect is and has broken it down. We've talked about R being reverence. We've talked about E being encouraged. Let's talk about the S, serve. Because now you're about to get it.
This one is always interesting to me because
Interesting.
I'll bring this perspective for a moment. Growing up with just a man, it was always amazing to me that the people he dated, and even people I dated in high school, they automatically expected, for instance, our home to be a wreck and this, that, and the other because it's two men living here. And when they would walk in and see it was immaculate, they would go, whoa. Well, I learned what serving is by looking at another man.
Ooh.
So what I think the challenge is, and why this is so hard, is because if you've grown up in a single parent home and you're the exact opposite, you've watched mom work.
Mm-hmm.
You haven't seen what it's like for mom to serve a husband. Now that don't mean less than or not equality, but serve. When you ask something, the response, the gestures, the spirit in which you do things. How do you serve him? And hear me, ladies, I'm not saying you just create to serve man. No, we're serving each other. But in terms of respect, barbershop conversation. Man, all I did was ask for some water and she went off. Or, man, all I did was ask for X, and it turned into what I didn't do last week. I mean, it's that. So how do you respond when you're asked to do something by the person that you love? Do you respond with joy? And granted, everybody's not happy every day, so I get that.
Right.
But the general pattern is it brings out a whole nother side of attitude, like, where I ain't here, I wasn't created to be your this, that, and the other. Then those are whole different issues going on. Serving is just simply the demeanor by which you interact with your mate when you're asked something. Period. That's all it is.
So what about, because I'm mind reading here. Somewhere out there in Facebook Live land. Well, I'm not going to say he don't do nothing for me. He doesn't do it for me. So when we get to that place of being, was it tit for tat, right? Serving, they serving up the petty, because the ladies can be petty. And then the men bring the ego.
By the way,
men can't be petty. Is that a new thing, or what? I didn't know. Men were usually stuck in the ego, and men have gotten to be real petty.
That came with the skinny jeans and stuff. That's a whole nother era.
Really?
I'm just saying.
The skinny jeans brought up. That's funny. So what happens in that case though? Because now I feel like I have served, I have done, I have shown, I'm doing all of this, and it's not being reciprocated. So why should I serve him?
This is a great question, and here's where I'm probably gonna tick a few people off, and I'm just gonna go here. This is where I probably will piss some people off, because from a biblical standpoint, 1 Peter 3, it talks about that virtuous wife. And what made her virtuous is how she's adorned on the outside, meaning her demeanor, how she approached things, her attitude. And Peter, in their text, was talking to people who had spouses who weren't saved. They weren't believers. And so he said, you are to serve in such a way that they see Jesus so much that it costs them, if they don't come to Christ, they at least have to say, wow, Jesus is real. So where I'm going with it is, my service of you, my service to my wife is not predicated on what she does to me, and vice versa. Because we have gotten it wrong and live tit for tat, and I don't do for you unless you do for me, we've gotten that wrong. And I would tell somebody flat out, if you can't get that, then you don't need to be married. And I'll say this real quick, because I think this is very powerful. I had a teacher in seminary whose mother, his dad had died, his mother remarried. Nobody in the family liked the guy. He was very abusive with his words, didn't treat her well, but she felt called to marry this man. She served him well. The night of their wedding, he got drunk and just, was very embarrassing. She still served him. Her son, which was my teacher, said, we can annul this right now because I don't want my mama married to you. She said no. It took 28 years later. This man comes to Jesus, and when you asked him how, he said it was because of how she treated me, how she served me, how she responded to me.
Well,
now, I'm not saying that's everybody's calling, but what I am saying is how you do it is based on what's inside of you.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter how I treat you. And I mean, how you treat me is how I treat you.
Yeah. That was good. There's another story that I want you to tell a little bit later. I'll give you some cues when it came, because you got some great stories about seminary. I mean, seminary school just for the stories is All right, so let's talk about. Thank you for that. That's interesting, and I know that serving. And earlier when you spoke about serving, you talked about the relation to submission. So we're not going to go with submission tonight. We're going to save that for another, because that's a very complex deal. But just for the record, can I say this? Submission does not mean being anybody's dog mat. Okay. Yes, you can say that. You scared me for a minute. I'm like, Lord, you about to.
No. Because I think that's why it's gotten such a dirty reputation, is because unfortunately people in positions like ours have taught that submission means you just take whatever, do whatever to a person and make it supposed to take it. And that's not what submission is.
Absolutely. That's definitely a Hashtag check your BS moment right there, right? The belief system that you have around what that means and what people taught you and what you were taught absolutely through submission. So yeah, we're going to table that for another one because that gets deep. All right, so we're going to move on. We've done RESP, patience. That's spelled right, patience.
Mm-hmm. So is everything urgent? Like everything? Like
Yes.
everything.
Yes, it is.
Patience, I think, because it's hard for everybody, right? Because we live in this microwave society. I push a button, I get my food warm in less than 60 seconds. I can drive through the drive-through, get my favorite coffee. But with respect, patience is, are you patient with me as I progress? Now, I'm not talking about patient with me and I'm acting a fool. I'm not talking about that. But if I'm progressing, are you patient with me? Or are you expecting me to already be it? But yet you want patience from me. You want grace from me. And when you slip up, you try and sell it to me by, oh, baby, and let me give you sex to soothe you. Yeah, I went there.
What?
Pull it back because the patience has run out now, and I can't keep doing this. And I can't keep doing that. But will you allow time? Can we prioritize? Does everything have to be urgent? Does everything have to be right now? Does everything have to be driven by what you want? Because often what makes us impatient is my wants are at the top of the list and your wants come beneath mine.
Yeah, yeah. So how then does that equate to love? Because to me, if you are, and flipping this, right, if you're there to serve me, because we talk about service, right, and patience, that to me equates to love, right? No, because if you love me, you would do what I asked you to do when I asked you to do. Because that the impatient thing, and I already have an answer for it, but I'm just gonna let you go. How does that? Y'all want to be in control. Y'all want to be in control.
So I think for the ladies, yes, actually, absolutely that equation. But for a guy is going, okay, as man of this house, I'm responsible for you, our kids, the structure of this place, in addition to what I'm responsible for outside the home. So then it becomes down to, if I can't get to something as fast as you want, does what you want define our love? Because you're saying, well, if you love me, you will do this and do it faster. Well, wait a minute. What is it that you're asking? Is what you're asking, is that a definition of our love? Is the foundation of our love based on this thing, or what it is you want, or this trip you want to get to, or this room you want redone? Or is our foundation of our love built on Christ and what we have, so that even if we lost all this stuff, we have something solid?
Yeah. What happens when I asked you last week?
I know. You asked me last week to wipe off that one spot on the counter, and I missed it, right? So then you have to ask yourself, it's called relationship credit with a man, especially when you're talking about respect. I'm going to be honest with you. So is this so urgent to you that you're willing to burn up the credit you have so that when something else comes later, you've already used it up? Or shall I say that there's space? Because if everything is urgent, then how do I ever know what really is and isn't? It's almost like the what's the story? The little girl cried wolf. If everything is a wolf, when a wolf really comes, how do I know it's a wolf? Because you've made everything urgent.
Well, I'm in that place as a woman, right, and as a wife, because I'm juggling a lot of things too, right? Because the kids will walk past you to ask me to do something, right, that you could do. So let's be clear, okay? So when that happens, then if I am learning if I'm juggling and needing to get things done on this side, and I ask you to do something, or I have to consistently remind you, and I have to ask again, the procrastination is killing me. Like, how as a woman do I keep from feeling as if I'm controlling
Got you.
And really get into that place of practicing patience and being patient with the progress when, brother, I mean, I might as well just do it myself. And so now I'm going to disrespect you because you can't get the job done.
So here's a couple of things I would throw out. First thing is this. Okay, let's start with what you're asking. Is it critical to the function of the relationship in our household? Yes or no? If it's a no, then you ask yourself, what is really driving me to want this so quickly? Is it because it's really an issue of love, or is it an issue of internally this is connected to something else? I didn't get it when I was a child. I didn't get it in my previous relationship. This shows signs of that. And so now I'm at 10 with you because my previous person didn't do these things. Okay, that's one thing I throw out. But then the other thing is, in terms of, like you said, well, is this something I can do myself? I'm getting ready to agitate.
You finna agitate.
Is it something you really could do yourself? Is it something that he must do? And if it's a must thing that he must do, tell me why. Is it because that's his gifting, or is it because someone always told you that's what a man does?
Because you are my husband or you are my man, and I would expect that.
I would expect that. Absolutely. And that works both ways. Same way with us. Okay, does she have to do that? Tell me why. Why?
Well, this is interesting. I think that you bring up great points. The challenge is because I am truly getting there's an expectation, right? So this is what I say. A relationship starts with three things, right? There's physical attraction, there's expectations, and there's potential. We get the physical attraction and the sex out the way quick, right? We get that out the way, boom. So now all you're left is with the potential and the expectations. So along with those expectations, now we've been married for X amount of years, right? I do have a level of expectation for you. So if I tell you that something, if a light bulb, because I'm looking right now at this light, like this light bulb needs to be changed. Now I haven't mentioned it to my husband, and we don't run a household like that. Like one of us eventually will go downstairs and get that. However, what if I'm consistently looking at that and I'm like, okay, so you're not going to change that light bulb. Like you're not going to do that, or you're not going to take the trash out. You see that the trash is out. Yeah. So why do I have to be patient when the expectation of your role, which I think we're going to hit it there. And but I'm kind of playing a little devil's advocate. Didn't I say I didn't like devil's advocate? I did say that.
No word.
I need another word.
You're bringing another perspective.
I'm bringing another perspective. Mm-hmm. The truth of it is that I think that we do have a difficult time having conversation early on about what I expect you to do and what your roles are. And, so in our household, right, if the trash needs to go out, it isn't a husband or a wife thing. If the trash needs to go out, somebody takes the trash out. And some households, to your point, the belief system has been created that as a man, you are responsible for doing this. So I don't have the patience to tell a grown man that the trash needs to go out, or the light bulb needs to be changed, or that the baby is crying. Go. You don't hear that baby? Because I hear the baby crying. You don't hear that? Those things come up. And so now I'm finding myself disrespecting you because it feels as if you are disrespecting me by not meeting my needs.
Right. I think so. A couple of things. You get into, you hit the word right on, and that is expectation. That's where communication comes into, where we create roles according to what works for your house. Now, what works for your house may not work for mine, and vice versa. And that doesn't make either one of us less than or more than in terms of men and being women. Right. So then we created that. And now the issue is, we talked about this, and it's still. Then you have to back up and say, okay, how do I encourage them along? And am I willing to walk this out for the length of time, even though it might not should be? So for instance, if the role in the house is, okay, as the guy, I'm going to take out the trash, if I constantly got to remind him about this trash, and a couple of things. Unfortunately, you got to ask yourself, is this really worth it to me to keep having to remind? If it is worth it to me that much, then what are ways that I can remind him that uplift and not tear him down?
Yeah.
Because as the old saying goes, I get more with honey than I do with vinegar.
Yeah.
So if you constantly look, that's not going to be another a more incentive for them to move on it. But if sweetheart, whatever the language needs to be, hey, can you get that trash?
Yeah. Okay. And I definitely am in a place of agreement with you. That is not one of the challenges that I've seen it happen, right? And I think that that we really have to go back and look at, to your point, priority. Is this something that I'm capable of doing myself? Sometimes women, we like to do this thing. I'm a test them and see what happens.
Mm-hmm.
Like playing those types of games, yet and still though, you be the first one to say, I respect him and I'm all about respect. Yet you play games and you play tricks and you want to wait and see what's going to happen. Is that truly how you define respect? And I don't think that we typically go down to the deep core of that to really find out. So let me remind everyone, we are inside the Mental Spot, hosted by Be Live TV. Thank you, Be Live, for providing this awesome platform for us to have these types of conversations. Our topic tonight is respect versus love. Do men and women view it differently? So we've got some comments in here that I just want to, before we get to the E, the C, and the T. Oh, this is good now. There was Ronald Gunn that posted, and he said, love is patient, kind, meek, humble. I'm human. And I really like that on that side, the human, and really getting clear that we have to be careful how we are viewing men in that place of understanding them, being respectful and being loved. They're human, right? They are the same as we are in that aspect of it. And we sometimes as women, we don't get into consideration. We don't understand that they too have needs in that place of love, and having to understand what love really means and how it's defined. We also have a comment here from Miss Pamela, who says, see, as women, that's what we do wrong. I had to learn years ago that both of us are adults and have the right to move when we will, not when we are demanded to. And demand is definitely one of those words that come into play when you're talking about respect. If you respect him and if you respect her, then demanding and using, as Pastor Dre mentioned, a certain tone in the way that you communicate, it can be very harmful to the relationship. So we have to look at that and make sure that we are clear on the tone that we're using and making sure that we're at a level of respect. Ronald comes back with a comment, and thank you guys for these comments. He says, bro, you're right, talking about Pastor Dre, and it says, women expect a man to be everything, both old school and new school, but women do not want to take on both of those roles. And no, Ronald, we don't. And that's the truth. And I don't know if we can own that. We don't want to take on that role all the time. And yet and still, when the time comes, we want that role to be fulfilled. And I think that a lot of that comes from our belief system and how we were raised and how we were taught to really honor men and honor women in those roles and what they should be doing and what they shouldn't be doing. And when we boil all of this down, it really comes back to the communication. Again, Pamela comes back around and she says, communicate what is good and acceptable behavior for you. Absolutely. This is about creating boundary, having difficult conversation. It's about being clear in defining those roles, being clear in defining what respect means to you. You know, I really challenge anyone who's in a relationship, ask your partner, right? Ask your spouse, your partner, your mate, your husband, your wife, whatever, whatever. Ask them, how do you define respect? And I said this earlier, break it down by your five senses. What does respect look like? What does it sound like? What does it feel like? What does it taste like? What does it smell like? Like being very clear so that when you begin to feel as if you may be crossing those lines of disrespect, you can, let's go say, check your BS, right? Check your BS, check your belief system, or whatever has you stuck that makes you feel like, hey, I do respect him or I do respect her. And it doesn't show up that way. So I am looking for Pastor Dre Did we lose you? Did I lose you? I
Oh
don't know.
no, I
Did I
see
lose
you. Can you hear me?
Let me get
Oh
you back
no.
here. All right, I may have lost him for a second. I am going to look back through some of these comments, and here we have something from Thomas Montgomery. He says, but the real truth about it is that a man of God will not teach his peoples about the laws of the world, but a man of God will only preach in people's lives of crying and sadness of their life. Can you give us a little bit more on that? And tell me if we can relate it to what it means to respect. Definitely want to make sure that we can tie that in. Pamela brings up another good point. She says sometimes we've been raised differently, and that's when conversation is the key. Absolutely, absolutely. And Pamela Milo, she's a member of Tribe Called Best, which is a learning community for wives. We also do that. Mm-hmm. And I do cocktails and conversations, private parties, and one of the topics is communication is the key, not one size fits all. So it looks like I've got a pastor back here, so I'm going to bring him back on in a second. Doop, 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 doop. You back?
Yes. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
I don't know what happened, but
We were getting
go
good.
back out and come back in. So
We were getting good, and you know how the enemy tries to do it. So thank you. So patience was a good one. Let's move through these. The next E. And again, for those who are just joining, let me make sure that we're clear. We're inside the mental spot. We are talking about respect versus love. If you find this valuable, please share with all of your Facebook friends and let them know. If you can't catch us live, to please come back and watch the replay. Pastor Dre is breaking down an acronym, and y'all know I love words, so this is right up my alley, right? For respect, and he is on the second E, which is exposure. Come on now, because you know we didn't have this conversation before.
I know, and now I don't want to keep everybody all night. So exposure. This one to me probably this first, then maybe reverence, but how do you handle things, good and bad, in terms of your communication with him? Does everybody know what's going on with y'all, or do you practice some discretion? Then how do you talk to him in public?
Mm-hmm.
I've seen more people create opportunities for division in their relationships because I've watched some women just show out in public and then think that it's okay to talk to a man, you know, derogatory, or I don't care how mad you are. The world don't need to see that.
Yeah.
That's disrespectful. I don't care what he's done. That needs to be behind closed doors.
Yeah.
Because once you've done that, you've just shrunk him.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you just put him in this bubble where now all eyes are on him, and he's trying to figure out perfectly how do I respond. Because if he goes there with you, then he's a bad guy, which he shouldn't just go there with you. So now he's got to figure that out. Where do I go next? How do I say this? How do I handle that? And so what you get is you've now just folded him up. And what happens a lot of times after those public rants is that a guy, he's there physically, but mentally he's checked out.
Yes.
Because he's on guard about what you say, how you say it. He's on guard about how you really feel about him. And he's thinking to himself, you know, hey, I can't go there with you like I would if you were another guy. Because if you were another guy, you know, I would put you in your place. I can't do that with you because I'm tasked to love you. And because I love you, I don't go tit for tat with you. Because I love you, I'm not going to dishonor you, even though you may be dishonoring me.
Yeah. So that's good. That's good. So to your first statement about exposing and what happens when you don't follow exposure, like when there isn't exposure in terms of respect? What typically do you see happens in relationships, in marriage?
It gets to a point where it's hard for a guy to listen because he's thinking, okay, she getting ready to, you know, rip me. So, you know, my way of dealing with this without going at her tit for tat is just to kind of tune her out. which
Mm-hmm.
is not healthy or good. Or, at some point, every man has a breaking point. The nicest of guys have a breaking point. And what I've seen happen is it builds up. That guy's like a pressure cooker. And then all of a sudden he explodes and then he lets her have it, which is totally wrong.
Yeah. Yeah.
Or you get what I call living on the roof, which is a guy who may be married for the next 50 years, totally checked out of his marriage.
Yes.
He's saying yes and no, almost like yes and no, ma'am,
Mm-hmm.
versus talking or interacting with his spouse. And he's just trying to survive. He's not really engaged. He's not really paying attention. He's really not into you. Um, I share this briefly. I met a guy who was a deacon and his wife passed away.
This is the story. This is the one I love. Yeah.
And early on in ministry for me, and they had been married 30 plus years. And I said, man, my prayers are with you. I can't imagine what that's like to lose somebody you've been with them that long, had kids. And he said, I'm free. And it caught me because he's probably in his late 60s, easy. And he said, I have been checked out for a while. He said, my wife was the type that, would go in on me on this or that. And I believed in staying married. I believe that you didn't get divorced. And so I just took it. So a couple of things went through my mind. Like, one, you got to have a conversation at some point. You can't just sit there and be someone's doormat. That don't mean you don't love them because you set good, healthy boundaries about how you interact. But he was from a different era, a different mindset. But I listened to this man. And coach, I'm telling you, he was at peace. He was
Wow.
relieved. He felt refreshed. But his words out of his mouth were, I'm free.
Wow.
Because
That makes me so sad.
he had lived what I call being on the roof. And see, here's what gets ladies, you don't understand about us. We can be on the roof and do the bare necessities, which are work, pay bills, have sex with you, go places with the kids, show up at the family functions, and be totally checked out.
Yes. 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 And yes. I always say that being there is not the same thing as being present. And you would rather show face by him being there than to really stand in the truth of, I don't respect him. I don't respect him. And to avoid the argument and to avoid that rift that continues to happen and all of that, he won't say anything. He'll just be there.
Yeah. And he just goes, okay. And sometimes, depending on the background of how you've grown up, you may be saying, as a woman, I handled that, or I took care of that, or girl, I handled my business.
Mm-hmm.
And in reality, what you did was just put him on the roof, and he may never come back down. And you don't even know what to look for because you're so into you and how you handle it, to the point that you don't even see it anymore.
Yeah.
And so he's totally checked out. He ain't cheating on you. He ain't gambling off money. He's just checked out from you. He's checked out. And
Gone.
as a result of being checked out, there's nothing there.
Mm. That's when we start talking about emotional detachment.
Yep.
Yeah, because we've had. Okay, I'm jotting down some things because you and I have had a lot of conversations about this. Again, everyone who is here with us, thank you for staying with us and tuning in and sharing and all of that good stuff. The conversation is just so good. I'm hoping that if you're not able to stay full time, that you'll come back and pick up where you left off. And for those who are going to be watching the replay, this is worth sticking around for. This is the Mental Spot, place where we talk about talk about life, love, and leaving the toilet seat up. This is episode 1. Our topic is respect versus love, and do men and women view it differently? I have as my first special guest, Pastor Dre of the Tabernacle St. Louis. And he's gone through an acronym for respect. We've talked about reverence, encourage, serve, or service, patience, exposure. And let's go ahead and roll right into the next one. The C was care.
So care is pretty simple. How do you express your concerns towards your mate? It's just that simple. How do you display interest? or the things to them that are important, are they important to you? Getting a little tongue tied there, but are they important to you? Do you really care? Because if you care, then it'll show by how you talk to me, engage me, listen to me, um, or the only things we talk about are the things that are cares and concerns to you.
Mm-hmm.
If the agenda of conversation is always about, and here's one where I think men, and I've been guilty of it myself, drop the ball a lot, in that we don't necessarily express the things that we care about so that you all can care about it with us.
Ooh, yes. You know why? Do you know why? Because I know why. But you the man, right? So I'm gonna let you tell the people why. Why do you all do that?
I think it comes from a variety of things. You're in a season of generation of men now who, some of them have been what I've called demasculated, in the sense that they've been taught to only care about what mama cared about because they've been raised by mama. Not a knock, that's all they've seen. Others have not seen what it's like for a man to really talk to a wife and to express his heart,
Mm-hmm.
because we haven't seen it. So I don't want to be soft. I want to be masculine. And we don't understand sometimes that a part of our masculinity is our ability to show our humanity and our vulnerability and our care.
Mm-hmm.
And then I think of just another aspect of it is, some of us are wired work, and other things so much that we don't even know that it's okay for us to have things that we care about, to be honest.
Yeah.
I know guys who they're so wound up in the work and the stuff that they do, and I've been there too, where I guess I can care about stuff and all of that.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah. And
Yeah.
so it's a learned thing for us to have to learn how to express what we care about, and and then be able to share it with y'all, so y'all are.
Absolutely, absolutely. Because we teach our boys not to cry, and then they grow into men who are emotionally, who are unable to emotionally express themselves, and it is definitely a challenge. Here's a comment from Ronald Gunn. He says, most times when we are vulnerable, women don't respect it.
Ronald, I feel that. And here's what I've seen happen sometimes, and it makes me border. A man finally opens up. Not easy for him to do. He finally opens up, and you're gonna give him the game plan about what he needs to do.
Mm,
He
mm,
didn't ask you to give him a game plan about what he needs to do. What he needs you to do right now is just listen. He don't need you to come up with no answers, no strategies. He don't need you to be his mama.
mm, mm.
He,
That's
he
all I
needs
can
you to
say.
be. He needs you to just be there. Uh, or you relate it back to something he did. Well, see, part of I think the issue, baby, is, don't you remember when you did X? Whoa, time out, time out, time out, time out. We're not talking about that now. So either that's been dealt with or it isn't. And so then what we do, we go back in the hole. I was out there, I put it out there, it got stepped on. You know what?
That's
Don't
it.
ask me nothing else. I'm not talking about anything else. I'm not sharing anything else.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And then the shutdown begins.
Yep.
Yep, yep. Absolutely. That's good. That's good. All right. So we are at the T, the last one, the T, the T, the T, and
That's
it's trial.
Here's the thing for us as men. Majority of us as men want to know if you're gonna be there when it get rough. Period. You can talk a good game. You can say all these other things about how you love, respect, care for me. But when the trials come, are you with me or are you not?
Mm,
It's that simple.
yeah.
In the difficult moments of life, are you there? And how do you treat me? Am I still your king? Am I still the one you encourage, love, and affirm? Or is it because we're going through something right now, whether it be things that one of us have done wrong or just life happening,
Yeah.
you treat me less than?
Yeah.
That T is a critical one, because if you look at most relationships between guy to guy, you ask him why this is number one dude, his A1, it's because he been through the thick of it with me and he stuck with me.
Yeah.
And it's the same thing that we're looking for and needing from our mates, is that, are you gonna be there with me when the tide ride high, or are you only there for me when things are going good?
Yeah. Yeah. And that sometimes can be difficult because we have a perception or a vision of what the relationship or the marriage is supposed to look like, or what the man is supposed to and it's supposed to look like. And again, defining these roles and having this, right, what society tells us. And so now when it gets like this, is not what they told me, right? Because we don't talk about uh the trials usually in marriage, because there is a line of protection. You must protect your marriage and really keep some things sacred. There's also the challenge that we don't have real discussion about what happens in marriage and the things that bring you to those trials, and then how can you be successful afterwards. And that's, I think, the tough part, and what makes me so passionate about the work that I've been called to do, and really bringing people to that place of awareness and understanding that it's not just you. Like, the trial will come, right? And what will you do when it gets there? I love this. Myron says, "Someone, can you stand the rain?" Hello, where's cue up the choir? Because that is the truth. Can you stand the rain?
Yeah.
And oftentimes we'll say yes, right? To death do us part. Is it death of the respect, death of the love? Death that happens as you're in the trial. Like, at what part do you say that I'm in it until death do you part? Death of what?
Right. No, that's very true. And I think that um, when you look at our parents, grandparents, that era, they knew what it was like to stand storms and stay together. We have seen less and less of that model. And so we think you trade up when the storm comes, or, you just cut whatever you need to cut off so that the storm will end.
Yeah.
We don't think always like, how are we going to weather this together, or we still going to. I love the example, even though it's a movie of soul food. Remember when Nia Long and Vivica Fox were talking, and she said, "You can't, go get your man a job." She said, "You remember when Big Mama, when Daddy lost his job, blah blah blah." She didn't put him down. She didn't treat him worse. She still treated him like a king. She did what she needed to do on the side to make sure the house was together, and she still honored him.
Yeah.
That's it, right there. But truth be told, many think like Bird. I got to do it this way, and da 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 da. And the truth is, can you stand the trials with me, or is it only when the sun is up you with me?
Right. And taking that's a great example. I love soul food. That's a great example, especially because a man could potentially see it as disrespect and distrust. Do you not trust that I'm going to find a job? And what's his name? Who played that role? Makai. Yeah. And he was like, you think I can't get my own job? And so it does demasculate them, men, when women overstep, right? When we want to be the helper, healer, fixer, and when we think that we have the solution, and when we think that we can make it better. And sometimes you have to give them space to operate. Right. We have to give men the opportunity to learn, because you can't ask him to lead and then want to stand in front of him and tell him which way to go.
Yeah. And that's the truth. That's the real of it. So, I mean, man, look, we could be all of these get much deeper, but I hope that this is giving people, all of us, something to think through, because as the scripture says in Ephesians, husband love your wives, and wives respect your husbands. There's a reason why it was written that way. And I think it's because God, being God, knew that we would struggle to love y'all in the way that we need to, that sacrificial love, and that you all would struggle to respect us, because we receive respect as love. It's equal. It's one and the same for us. And when you don't respect us, we don't feel that we're loved. And when we don't feel love, we just shut down and go through the motion.
Absolutely. And that's definitely something that we've been taught. I like this comment by Ronald, who says, and he speaks some other things in here. The last statement stood out to me. It says, that storm, we talk about, can you stand the rain? Can you stand the trial? He says that storm is the best part of the relationship, because you can actually see what you got. Absolutely. You can see it, right? When it hits you, like, okay, wait. And we often don't want to respect the storm, right? And to respect the fact that it happens, and now you have the choice on how you want to move forward and what you're going to do with it. This has been good, y'all. This has been so good. We are rounding up to the last few minutes of the mental spot, and I want to take a moment to share some things about Pastor Dre that's happening. Again, can you tell us? I'm going to give them the website to the Tabernacle. What else is happening that the people should know about?
Well, for the guys that may be on here and the ladies who love you guys, Father's Day weekend, we do what's called the Man Cave. It's where we go in and it's for men only. And we deal with various topics, and this year is what's in your hand. In other words, what do you have at your disposal that maybe you don't see that you have, that God wants to use. And it's really about us coming together as brethren to share and encourage and to build each other up in our faith in God and as who he's called us to be in society. And we need that space. It's self-preservation. Most men, we don't do self-preservation. We don't do self-care. So we take Father's Day weekend to do that, and then just honor men and say, look, man, if nobody else honors you, if nobody else esteems you, we affirm you. And we're grateful that God made you and that you're here. So that's one thing. Certainly love to mention. And then we're coming up on celebrating our church 6-year church anniversary. So like any good people, we like to have fun. So we got a game night coming up on April 14th. Anybody's welcome. It's food, fun, and fellowship. Now, let me tell you, the games are real and competitive. So it's not, because we Christian, we just gonna let you win. No, we play to win, and we play and have a good time as we do it. So we're not a very traditional type place, but we're a place that loves Jesus, and we love reaching and having these kinds of conversations. And so come out and hang out with us. Come out, have some free food, and just enjoy a night of excitement and a good time. So just throw that out there as we're heading into those two things. But ladies, please listen, this could be their Father's Day gift. Have them register. We love to have them. That takes care of their room. It takes care of the night meal and breakfast during the morning, and speakers pouring in and all of that good stuff. And we shut it down. Typically men then break off in corners. They stay up to the wee hours of the night. I'm sleeping. I'll hear stories the next morning about the guys connecting and just having that room and that space. Because sometimes a guy needs another guy. We love y'all, but there's certain times where we need a brother. We need somebody we can talk to and build trust with. So that's what's going on right now. Game night the 14th, and Man Cave is coming.
All right. So I am going to put up the website for the tab. It's www. Can we just say that? I put that on there. It's the tab-stl.org, where you can find out more information about Pastor Dre and the Man Cave event that's coming up in June, and the gathering to celebrate their church anniversary coming up here on the 14th. And I also want to let you all know that when people come to me, I was joking with Pastor the other day, and I said, sometimes people come to me and they say, well, I'm looking for a Christian counselor. And I'm like, what I say? What? I'm Christian? Is it to check your BS? Like, what is it? But I really respect the fact that some people want a minister or a pastor or someone to help them with their marriage or some of the challenges that they're having. And so I want to let you all know that I highly recommend, recommend, and really encourage that if you are looking for a minister, a pastor, or from a Christian and it's so funny to me because when I say I'm a Christian too, but what? Because Coach Shaquan get a little dirty. She sometimes say 4 little words that's not in the Bible. Okay. Yes. Yes, she does. Yeah. And Pastor still lets me stand on his stage and speak the word. Yes, he does. But anyway, if you are serious and in all seriousness, if you're looking for someone to reach out to, and as you can see, he's very knowledgeable. He speaks in a very relatable aspect and puts scripture to it and really help talk you through. So if you need any relationship or marriage counseling, here is the information. You can email the tabernacle@yahoo.com, or the phone number is 314-643-6624. And again, I will put the website up here. It is the tab-stl.org. And please, if you feel like you want to extend the conversation or are seeking some additional questions or anything, please, 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 don't hesitate to reach out to him. If you want to find out more and keep up with what's happening with Coach, please follow the movement on social media. It is #CheckYourBS, where of course BS stands for belief system, or whatever has you stuck in a pattern of thinking or a way of doing that is not allowing you to reach your goals. Okay. And if you're trying to figure out, okay, Coach, well, what exactly does it mean to check your BS? I'm going to tell you. Visit CheckYourBS.com. I have a free video and download worksheet that you can begin to do in the comfort of your own home, so that you can begin to challenge what you think, check what you believe, and choose the life and the relationships that you desire. All right. So we're wrapping up this episode 1 of The Mental Spot. Again, I am so happy, and thank you so much, Pastor Dre. See, I call him Dre from back in the day. He didn't disclose any too many secrets about us, that because I told him that, I said, don't you bring that up. Okay. I won't tell you.
I want to be able to come back to the mental spot. And 2, I don't want people the first time going, yeah, he got issues. I want to ease them into my issues slowly.
Slowly.
Yes, indeed. Yes.
I get it. Too funny. Okay. So before we leave, I got to ask some questions, because again, we're talking about life, love, and leaving the toilet seat up. So yeah, I have a couple of rapid questions. If I come to your house, is the toilet seat up or down?
It depends. Most times it's down, but every now and then it still gets up, because I say, hey, check before you squat. That's all I'm saying. Check before you squat.
What's the most I'm gonna skip over that, right? What's the most misunderstood thing about being a Black man?
That we're all the same. That we get put in this box, that we're all the same. Again, tying back in what we talked about tonight, if you respect me, you'll take time to learn me and understand who I am, and not just put me in a box.
Yeah, I love that. All right, here's another one. When is the last time you cried?
Today. Just overwhelmed by thinking about the day being 50 years since MLK was assassinated, and looking at where we are as a society, and yet feeling like we've made very little progress, and wondering, and then yet overwhelmed by the grace of God, going, wow, yet we're still here, and you've allowed us to be here. So what does that look like next? So today, this morning.
Thank you for sharing, for speaking your truth. And I know that you have been married to the lovely First Lady for, how many years?
15 years. 15 years.
15 years.
Going on the year 16.
All right. One word to describe marriage.
One word, man, that's tough. One word, sacrificial.
Ooh, love it.
Yeah.
Love it. And then the last one, greatest myth about men and marriage.
That we don't want it.
Yeah.
I think that's the greatest myth, that men don't want to be married. Men don't want to settle down. So not true.
I agree. Well, thank you again so much to all of our viewers who stayed on, watched us live, to all of the comments, all of the feedback on what was most appreciated about the show. Again, this is The Mental Spot, the place where we talk, have wonderful guests, and I talk with men about life, love, and leaving the toilet seat up. My name is Coach Shaquan, certified relationship coach. My guest today was Pastor Dre from the Tabernacle, St. Louis, Missouri. We have had an amazing time with amazing conversation on the concept of, or the conversation about respect versus love. Thank you so much for joining. I look forward to seeing you guys back here next week. Again, share, invite your friends to come back, because I have another special guest, and we will definitely have you back, Pastor Dre.
Would love it. And I'm going to try my best to tune in next week. And, this is my thing. I love it. I'm grateful you're doing this. And I'm praying one day, you know, somebody sees this and just gives you that contract and lets you go ahead and be like your own, you know, TV show or something.
Can we let's go ahead and put that into fruition. So look, when y'all come back and look at this show, because what's going to happen is some years from now, we're like, oh my gosh, you guys remember the first time I did the mental spot? Absolutely. Let's say it here, right?
Absolutely.
Let's claim it. Let's claim it. Let's claim it. So thank you all so much for joining us. Please have a great evening, and we will see you here again next week.
All right.
All right. Take you later. Bye-bye.